Good afternoon and Happy New Year, everyone. Today is Tuesday, January 6th, and I'm calling to order the Committee of the Whole for Planning and Public Works. All council members are in attendance, including council members Forsyth, Nueva Camina, our new colleague, Councilmember Soni, Councilmember Kritzer, and our newest colleague, Councilmember Procria. Welcome, everyone. We're so excited to be here. We are also joined today for this meeting by Mayor Burney. Thank you for being here, Mayor Burney. We have 4 items on the agenda today, and we'll get started with planning and community development. The first item is a resolution documenting completion of Redmond 2050, the periodic update of the comprehensive plan. Introducing the item will be Deputy Director Seraphy Allen. Happy New Year, Deputy Director.
Happy New Year and good afternoon, Council. This is a little bit of a funny item. It is to truly make sure that we have completed the Redmond 2050 periodic update of the comprehensive plan. And I'll turn it over to Glenn to provide a little bit more information about why we are needing to complete this resolution.
Hello and Happy New Year's, Council members. I am Glenn Coyle, a senior planner on the long-range planning team in the Planning and Community Development Department. Staff is requesting that Council adopt a resolution on the consent agenda at the January 20th business meeting declaring the Redmond 2050 Comprehensive Plan periodic update is complete. So for some context, the Redmond 2050 Comprehensive Plan was adopted on November 19th, 2024 by ordinances 3181 through 3190. A 10-day notice of adoption was submitted to the Washington Department of Commerce on November 27, 2024. In November of 2025, Commerce staff notified the city that per Washington state law, the city must also take legislative action declaring that the periodic review is complete. Also, if the city took multiple legislative actions as part of the periodic update process, the final ordinance or resolution should reference all prior legislative actions. With this in mind, this resolution formally declares the Redmond 2050 Comprehensive Plan periodic update complete and references all legislative actions taken to complete the periodic update. That's it.
All right, well, this item is under consideration for consent at our January 20th meeting. Are there any questions from the council on the reason for this resolution? Council Member Kritzer.
Not a question, thank you. Not a question on the reason for the resolution, but, and I think overall this is pretty straightforward. One thought I had just reading through the resolution is I know when we celebrated the passage of 2050, one of the things that we talked about was the total number of residents that were engaged in the process. And it doesn't show up in the details in this resolution. I just thought, since we talk about all the different ways that we engage people, it might be nice as part of this resolution to commemorate the number of people, since I think it was in the thousands, that we engaged across the city as part of the process, if we wanted to add that detail.
Yeah, I believe that's something we can pull from our engagement materials and add as a whereas statement in the resolution.
Great, thank you. Can I just get a quick thumbs up on council members who are in support of adding this? Seeing thumbs up all around. Great. Thank you so much. Other questions about the resolution? Some good jobs and head nods around the room. So for our new colleagues, the next question I'm about to ask is the question that we word it in this particular way because the next time that you'll see this item, it will be in our consent agenda. And as best we can, we like to not have to discuss those items individually. It's really an efficiency mechanism. So the question now for this item is, are there any objections to this item going into the consent calendar on January 20th? All right, seeing no objections, we'll have this one back. Thank you, team. Really appreciate it. Transitioning now to an item for Public Works. This is a item that we are going to collect questions today ahead of a study session later this month. So the item is the 2025 Q4 Capital Investment Program status update, including a look ahead to 2026 and an update on the Municipal Operations Campus Rebuild Project. Welcome, team.
Good afternoon, Council. Brandon Bueller, Acting Deputy Director, Public Works. I'm here this evening to provide a look ahead for 2026 and a report out on our Q4 CIP portfolio. We're driving to a study session on the 27th to bring that forward. I'll hand it over to Steve and Tess, who've done terrific work.
Good afternoon, Council. Happy New Year. Happy to be back again, giving you another report. I'm going to hand this off to Tess, but I just wanted to let you know Tess does basically all of this work, extracting information from the project managers to get updates on the current projects, and then also interfacing with the functional areas on the upcoming projects that they're proposing and putting together the CIP. So she basically makes Brendan and I look really good. So, Tess?
Thank you both. It's nice to have some hype men here with me. So I am Tess Wilkinson. I am the Capital Improvement Program Planner. And as part of that role, as they said, I come back to you 4 times a year to give you quarterly updates on the progress that we are making on the various projects within the portfolios that make up the Capital Improvement Program or the CIP. And at each study session, we do a deeper dive into 1 or 2 selected projects within each of those portfolios. And as part of the agenda setting meeting for this upcoming study session, it was requested that we give you a little preview of the pedestrian and bicycle program projects, both the current and upcoming ones. So you'll see that in your slide deck presentation that was included in here. It is in draft mode. There are still some more updates that are coming. There is also a preview slide on the MOC rebuild project, as well as the Evans Creek project. And while I'm happy to give you an update on all those projects, I did want to be sure that you're aware that Public Works will be providing you with a staff report on Evans Creek February 17th. And so to avoid spoilers, with your permission, I would like to remove that project from a featured as a featured project within my presentation. Is that okay? All right. Good, I don't want to step on any toes and, like I said, give you more information or less or say something wrong on that one. And then we come to the part of the meeting where I ask you, are there any projects as seen on the handout that I provide or within that draft presentation that you would like us to feature in the upcoming study session?
Great. Thank you so much, Tess and Steve. And Brandon, thank you so much for filling in as Acting Deputy Director. I want to take a moment just to acknowledge the awesome service of Vanjie Garcia, who's moved on to the city of SeaTac. We're going to miss her a ton, but it means a lot that you're stepping into the role, so thank you so much. So Council, Tess's question for us is, what are the projects we would like to hear more about on January 27th? Councilmember Forsyth.
Thank you. Interested when you bring back the bike ped conversation, if you could talk about the Bell Red corridor and if there's been any updates or further conversations with Bellevue. Still really bummed that they went back on their initial plan. So curious if there's been any further conversations and if there's any work that we can do as council members on that item. And then the other one that I'm interested in learning more about, we've been getting some emails about this one, the Reservoir Park Sport Court Replacement Project. And I see that it's a little bit over budget, so just want to get some more updates on that. Thanks.
Other questions from the council? Councilmember Nueva Camina.
Thank you. Happy New Year. Welcome. To tag on to Council Vice President Forsyth, thank you. It's a lot of grace today, a lot of grace. Just to tag on for the Reservoir Park Sports Court replacement, how far over budget are we? Are there any contingencies? Is this completely off the table, or just some more details so we've got better understanding? Thank you.
Councilmember Kritzer.
Thank you. A few questions. First, on Evans Creek, I wanted to note I'm fine with us not talking about it since we do have the study session. I guess the only thing would be if there is anything that we can do at this time to be helpful on the political side, especially since I know if there's anything that's time sensitive, I'd be interested to know sooner. But otherwise, happy to wait until our study session to have more discussion about that very important project for our salmon. So two other questions that I have, or areas that I'd love to highlight. If you could chat about the improvements of lighting at City Hall and what we can expect now that that project is complete, since we often get questions about that. And some of the efficiencies that we'll have and abilities to turn off and on lights. It would be great to have that information. And then secondly, the Teen Center project is also in this presentation, and the next steps are on there. I'm curious whether we need to formally add that to the CIP, since I don't think it was a project, although we did give the approval to move forward. With moving towards the rebuild. So I'm just curious to know more as part of the discussion about the next steps of both what is needed from council and some of the thoughts going ahead on that.
We can do all that. Circling back to finance was on my to-do list to make sure that that teen center demo was on the CIP and what we needed to do. I think it's something that will be led by them, but I didn't want to make any assumptions on that one. So we'll be sure and let you know when we come back on the 27th.
And I will just add, specifically for the part that is listed on the CIP, if you could just share the current plans for what the funding source will be for that, if it's just general CIP dollars or where we're finding those dollars since they weren't originally budgeted in the CIP.
Thank you. Are there other questions from the council? I'll chime in with mine. I had the same question on the teen center, so I appreciate my colleague bringing that up. Also, my favorite project, the MOC, and just the update on there, it really does look like you're already planning to discuss this with us, but it looks like there's some capacity and real estate questions emerging in terms of how much space the team needs to have a great place to work and be able to deliver service, so I'm really looking forward to hearing more about that. Thank you. Any other questions? All right, seeing none, we'll have you back on the 27th. We look forward to the conversation. Thanks, team. The next two items on the agenda are from another committee, but for timing are scheduled today. They are both related to human resources. I believe, yes, Director Laird is here with us. This next item is the proposed Fifth Amendment to the Gallagher Services Contract. Introducing the item, when she has a moment to settle in, is Director Laird. Welcome and Happy New Year.
Thank you. Happy New Year to you as well. Thank you, Councilmember Stewart and council members. So my first item tonight is to talk about the Gallagher Services Contract for payroll consulting services. So this is the Fifth Amendment to an existing contract that Human Resources, also called HR, just to use that acronym, has with Gallagher Services. Gallagher provides for us a variety of HR and organizational effectiveness services, and since 2021, we have been using Gallagher for their benefit broker services. Due to Gallagher's excellent reputation on organizational effectiveness, we reached out to them regarding payroll services. As you may recall, last year I shared with you that HR is partnering with the Technology and Information Services Department on updating our HR payroll system using the vendor UKG Pro. We determined it would greatly assist the UKG Pro project by providing a partial payroll procedures and systems audit through Gallagher, and we initiated a Fourth Amendment in December of 2025 to our Gallagher Services contract. The goal of the audit is to obtain recommendations to optimize our payroll processing functions and to set clear standard operating procedures to achieve payroll transparency. So for this Fifth Amendment that I'm here asking you about, HR has determined it is also appropriate to have Gallagher conduct a comprehensive review of the city's internal payroll processes through actual payroll processing. Due to the complexities of the city's payroll process, it will take several pay periods to learn the processes, and additionally, reduced staffing is anticipated over the next 6 months as a result of extended leaves. So the consultant will provide for continuity of payroll processing as necessary. The information gained from Gallagher processing payroll will further input and recommendations on improving our payroll processes functions within the UKG Pro. It should be noted, though, we are not contracting out our entire payroll processing to Gallagher. Rather, we are obtaining their expert guidance to provide input about ways to create efficiencies for our payroll processing to support the new UKG Pro system. Once Gallagher learns our process, they will be able to process payroll, but final authorization to fund payroll will be through the Automated Clearinghouse, or ACH, and that will be handled either by a payroll or a finance employee. The cost for the fifth contract amendment to provide this payroll backup service will be approximately $13,350 per pay period. And what we're looking at is having them be able to process up to 12 pay periods, which would cover about 6 months. And so the total estimated cost is $160,200. HR will fund this amount through the existing 2025 budget, and we will only use the funds as necessary. So we may not have to have the full 6 months, but we would want to have it there just in case. There actually is some level of urgency to move forward with the contract due to upcoming staff leaves, as I mentioned, and to ensure data captured while processing payroll can be passed on timely for the UKG project. So I'm seeking council's approval to place this item on the January 20th council consent. I would be pleased to answer your questions, although I would like to note that I'm not prepared to answer detailed questions about Gallagher's first 3 amendments to the contract, except to say that those contracts focus on the benefits, brokerage services, and legal compliance by sourcing and negotiating benefit contracts on behalf of the city. So with that, just leaving it up to you if you have any questions.
Yeah, thank you, Director Laird. I think there will be some questions. Who would like to go first? Councilmember Forsyth.
Thank you. Thanks for bringing this item forward. The 6-month recommendation, is that per Gallagher, or is that an internal, what we're looking to have covered and what we're hoping to learn within those 6 months? You mentioned it could be shorter.
Right. Yeah, the 6 months was something that we determined in-house within HR by looking out over between now and June to July. Again, staff coverage as well as where we were at, where we will be with the UKG Pro project. So having them learn the payroll system, they can get that going relatively quickly. They can start to give us recommendations and input that we can then pass on for the UKG project, but then also having them available due to staffing, potential staffing shortages.
Got it. So
Yeah.
it sounds like we probably will anticipate going that 6 months unless something really changes.
Right. And the goal is we may not even need to use them once they learn it. They're just there just in case.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks. I look forward to supporting this. I think this has been a long time coming, having been someone who had some payroll issues early on. So I look forward to voting yes on this.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Councilmember Nueva Camina.
Thank you. Although we anticipate that we may not need the full 6 months, do we have a contingency plan in case we need to go over that 6 months?
Yes, absolutely. What I'll be doing is actually coming back to you. I will know that relatively quickly about whether or not we are going to need additional funds that would go beyond the 6 months. Yeah, thank you.
Councilmember Kritzer.
And are the staff that are going on leave, we're anticipating them to return within the 6 months, or is that something that we need to plan additionally as an undetermined amount of time?
Right. That actually is hard to answer at this point. So yes, we are anticipating them to come back, but you never know. Yeah.
And I assume when we think about the coverage of a consultant doing this type of work versus hiring some temporary employee to come, it sounds like we're kind of getting 2 things at once in both the coverage as well as them being able to do this study through implementing the work. But I assume you did the analysis on that in terms of the financial
Yes,
as well.
absolutely. Yeah, I will say our payroll system is complex enough that we have learned you can't just take a consultant off the street and have them come in and do it. You need somebody that really can understand how payroll processes work. So the person that we've identified and just has an extensive amount of payroll experience that can come in and actually can see pretty quickly how our payroll works. Yeah.
I'll go ahead and chime in with a couple of my questions. I have a question regarding the budget for this item, as well as the dates. If I'm reading correctly, and it would be helpful to have this verified, it looks like this contract was already implemented and signed on the 19th of December, and it's coming to us now for approval. We did have FAC just like the week prior. So I have a couple of questions about the timing, and truly because I hope that this year, one of the things that we can get back on track with is that Finance Administration and Communications Committee really having a thoughtful agenda setting so that we can make sure that some of these conversations can come to us when they're early stage and really thoughtful and not an emergency as we kind of are at this point on this one.
Right. So just to clarify, what you're referring to in December is Amendment 4, and that amendment is under $50,000, so I have the authority to authorize that. So that one is that's for the audit, which is different from this request. And yes, I can understand what you mean about emergency, and I apologize for it, but sometimes things come up that you can't anticipate for, and so we are working through that, so.
Okay,
yeah.
well, I appreciate that. We have shared goals and understanding about that. But how about the budget? Was this item included in the budget, or if not, how will we cover this one?
So the item is, no, because we weren't anticipating it, of course, but we do have professional services within our budget, and so it would be covered within that. Yeah.
Great, thank you. Are there other questions from the council? Okay, any objections to this item going to consent on January 20th? Okay, seeing none, we will be good to go on that. Thank you, Director Laird.
Great, thank you.
Director Laird is going to stick with us for the next item, which is the 2026 ENNSGS pay plan updates. This item is also up for new business today on our business agenda. Looks like we're also being joined by COO Files. Welcome, Happy New Year.
Yes, so yes, we are here to talk about the 2026 executive pay plans and the 2026 non-represented pay plans. These have been presented to you for your consideration on November 18th in a staff report, and again on December 9th during the study session. And I'm seeking council's approval for these pay plans during tonight's business meeting under new business, with an effective date for both of the pay plans to be January 1st of 2026. During the study session on December 9th, council asked for the executive department's organization chart, visualizing how the new assistant chief operating officer classification will fit within the department. So you did receive that information in your organization chart. And at this time, I'd like to just pass that back to you, Councilmember Stewart, to ask if you have any questions or would like to discuss further with me or the mayor who's here and Melissa as well.
Okay, well, I do think that there are several questions, maybe falling in a couple of buckets, particularly on the E-plan. So why don't we start there? Are there questions from the council? Councilmember Nueva Camina.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the visual on the org chart, because it made it a lot easier to see how this was going to flow, both managing up and down and across. So deeply, deeply appreciate this. I'm excited to see this, some of these positions being filled, and we actually having a ready person and a strategy and performance person. My question was, once we get these in place, do we have and I'm speaking specifically about the ready position, do we have something in place to then see how is it doing? How is it going? so that we can get this in place and still have some slight concerns about maybe we're not getting exactly dialed in the way that we originally foresaw it, but that we've got some flexibility in there to make changes as we move forward.
I can answer that question. So all the performance measures are in the READY plan as it stands right now. So that's what we'll be using as our baseline performance metrics for the position. So I'm hoping that will help us, kind of measure what we're doing and then adjust if we need to. The READY plan is about a year old and we've been making strides on it, but and gathering data, I should say, that we haven't gathered before. So this position will kind of take that over, and I'm hoping through those measures and metrics we'll know whether it's working or not.
Mayor Bernie. Thank you. Excuse me. And I can add that I know this is a high priority of the city and the council to make sure that we're meeting our objectives in this arena. And so I think it would probably be very important for us to do very regular updates to the council, to the community, about how we're progressing with our READY plan in a much more, maybe more formal way. So I don't know if that's monthly or bi-monthly in these committee of the whole, whatever committee of the whole meeting the council wants, but I think that there's ways to ensure that we are meeting our outcomes that we want to in ensuring that our community is getting what we want out of this program.
Thank you.
Councilmember Kritzer.
Thank you. On the topic of the READY position as well as the Deputy Executive Director position, or what shows up in the org chart, I think is the same as the strategy and performance position. Is that correct, Mayor Bernie?
Yeah, yes. What we found in doing the work with Anita and working on the READY plan is that what we needed was someone in a more elevated position to be able to implement the READY plan, not just citywide, but community-wide, and also elevate them to a position where they could get the work done, be part of the director's team, and be able to have the amount of pay that would get us the person that we need to have in that position to get the work done. So that is where that position lies.
Okay, great. So I guess I have kind of a question on that position specifically, and then I have another question on the other READY position that shows up in the pay plan, which I assume is the more junior position that we budgeted for. And as a reminder for our new council members, in our last biennial budget, we did budget for a more senior diversity, equity, and inclusion program advisor who's supposed to be at the director's table and have the authority to be able to influence across the organization. And then we also budgeted for a new position that would be ongoing to be able to support that program, do community engagement, and bring expertise in DEI work as well. So to have 2 DEI positions. And I do want to make sure that as we make these changes that we don't lose that, since we have gone a year into the biennium and neither of those positions have been hired since our last DEI advisor left the previous year. And so I think on the higher level position, one question that I have, when I look at this org chart, there's directors and COO and assistant COO, and those all align actually to the names of those positions as they show up in these pay plans. The one that doesn't align is that we have Deputy Executive Department Director, and then on this chart it says strategy and performance. And so I think it would be good if we could be clear on the name of that position. I'm wondering if we can change it in the pay plan to be more specific. What I would like to see is to have the word equity within the name of that position, to be clear that that is part of the scope of this role, if we are indeed saying that this is the senior DEI position that we envisioned when the council allocated the budget for it.
May I speak to that? So in regards to the classification title, we have a formal official title, which is the Deputy Executive Department Director. And then within that, there are working titles. So the working title will be the strategy and performance. And we're not we would prefer not to create a separate classification. The reason is because we have our classifications identified specifically based upon the level that they're at. And if we start to add in these unique classifications, it really does complicate how the pay plan works. And again, how we do internal equity, how we look at different positions and such. So our recommendation would be not to do it where we have a specific title for that deputy director.
I understand that. I guess, so the question I would have is, how does the working title get determined?
The hiring manager makes the determination on what the working title is. So, and that's what we post externally for candidates to see. And that's generally and that's usually on their business cards if that's what they want. So
in this case, is the hiring manager the mayor, or is it the COO or assistant COO?
Mayor Bernie?
The hiring manager, well, for this position would be me and the COO. I think because this is a working title, I think that we can work with the interest of the council and find a working title that meets the needs to ensure that we're hiring someone who has expertise in DEI without changing the pay plan structure. So it sounds like what we're seeing with strategy and performance is not listed as the pay plan. That's the long title of deputy executive department director, not a title person, sorry. But I think that we can come up with a working title in doing our job description that I think will meet the needs of what the city needs, what the council's asking for.
So if I can just catch up the conversation, Councilmember Kritzer, would you be interested in having equity added to the working title of this position?
Yes, I think I wouldn't feel comfortable essentially voting for us to make these changes to the pay plan, which does transfer what is our current DEI position into this without knowing that we are going to have some accountability around that position, hiring for someone with equity, and us having something in the title that conveys to our community that that's part of the expertise of this person and what they're going to be accountable to.
Okay, so I appreciate that, and I do support that suggestion. Let me poll the council. Are there questions about this suggestion, or thumbs up, thumbs down, either way? I see a thumbs up so far. Please do raise your hand if you have a question. Councilmember Nueva Camina.
Thank you. If we have the word equity, if it is going to be signaling to the community that this is, I'm fine with that. Ideally, I would love if it's already in our values. It's something that we walk out in the day-to-day, understanding that as every organization, we have our work to do, as has already been identified in our Ready AR data. And just having it to where getting to the point, and again, this is idealistic, but getting to the point where we don't need it, and acknowledging that we do have accountability to our communities, saying that, yes, we are doing this work. I think my sense of urgency is that we have already been without somebody filling these positions for quite a long time, and we need, the longer that we wait for this, then the longer it's going to be until we get somebody in place. And we've got some significant changes that are going to be happening in personnel in this coming year. We also have a lot of things that are happening within our community. So again, for me, it's the with how I'm coming with the urgency, it's having some foresight into what is coming and how we desperately need to get this position filled as quickly as possible. Thank you.
Councilmember Prakria.
Thank you. Two things. First of all, just a clarification question. So the position titled Strategy and Performance on the org chart here is the one that we budgeted for in the previous budget?
That's correct.
Okay. And I also want to say that, you know, I don't believe that we should live in fear, but I think it's also important to acknowledge that we all acknowledge that diversity is important, that equity is fundamental to our community, to our values. But adding keywords like this here with such a hostile federal government, I think, could be possibly, an impediment for us getting federal dollars, us getting repercussions from, higher levels of government. And I just wanted to bring that up and hear the rest of my colleagues' thoughts on whether or not this is a concern, despite the fact that we all share, these same values.
Sure, it's a really great question, and I'll go ahead and say a short thing, and then I'll call on Councilmember Forsyth. Thank you for the question, Councilmember Prakria, and here at the City of Redmond, I think that one of the most powerful things we can do is stand for our values. And actually just yesterday, which isn't an email that I'm sure you just got your technology today, you'll be able to see this email. But just yesterday, actually, the city was awarded an additional federal grant of hundreds of thousands of dollars to support our Safe Streets for All action plan. So to date, we have continued to stand for our values and continue to be successful in meeting the needs of our community. So I agree with your sentiment to not live in fear. Councilmember Forsyth, and then we can go back to Councilmember Kritzer.
Thank you. I similarly had the same thought and wanted to direct the question to you all. Do you foresee any issues with us adding the word equity to this title, putting us in any sort of risk for grants, putting us at any sort of risk for exactly what my colleague laid out?
Well, I have two thoughts, but to answer that question, I actually don't know the answer to that. I do know that.
That's a fair answer.
I think that things are unpredictable at this time. I think that I am uncertain what. I'm just uncertain about that. I want to concur that we do the work of, Ready. We have spent significant amount of time ensuring that we are able to meet the needs of our community wherever they are. And that is the goal, and that will continue to be the goal. And I do think that in this current administration, having particular keywords can be really a challenge. So I'll leave that there. The other thing I would say is that adding just the word equity doesn't totally fulfill the READY program that we have. It's respect, equity, diversity, and inclusion. And so I might ask the council to think about in a level of, we've been working on this for many years. We do a lot of really wonderful things. Perhaps we can move forward with this and come up with a title that includes READY and in that particular role, and so that we're able to kind of move forward on these roles. To Councilmember Nueva Camina's point, we've been working on this so that we can hire the best person that we can find, give them the right pay to make sure that we're doing the work well for the city and community, but try to figure out the right, what'd you call that? Working title? The right working title to ensure that council and the community have the confidence that we're really doing this work and it really has a place.
Is this position at all funded by grant money? Grant funding?
No.
Great. So I'm supportive of us modifying the title to be reflective of what the role is. I don't want to slow down the process, but I do, to Council President Kritzer's point, agree that we've been waiting for this position for a long time, and I don't want the core of it to get lost in the job postings. So I think that's where, for me, is making sure that it's very clear that that's what the role is critical.
Thank you. I do agree that the effort to ensure that we are reaching all of the amazing DEI professionals who are currently on the market, that's who we actually want for this role. Councilmember Kritzer.
Thank you. And yes, and I would agree. And I would say we should learn from some of our past efforts as well. Some on the council may remember before this biennium, we did a limited time duration position that was supposed to be the support position, and that got categorized as an administrative position, and we got an administrative person who eventually became our legislative coordinator, who got hired into that role. So I'll just note that in terms of, I think we want to make make sure that we do, for these positions, I'd like to make sure that we have 2 people, both more senior and then one more junior, that both bring expertise in community engagement, diversity, equity, inclusion work, in addition to with that higher level person bringing that strategic effort, that we just have that framework as part of what we pass here in this understanding. So I think having this title and this agreement from the mayor to work with the council to figure out what's a title that we can agree on as part of kind of what we budgeted and then what you'll be hiring and managing would be fantastic. I would love to respond on the question around equity and having that in the title or having that kind of within what we do. So first of all, we do have already a position that's called the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Program Advisor that we would be passing as part of this pay plan. So we already have a position that has the word equity and diversity and inclusion in there. So that wouldn't be changed. It would just be adding one more position that also has that. Secondly, in our community strategic plan, in our comprehensive plan, in our respect, equity, diversity, and inclusion plan, which are all accessible on our website and are the plans that guide the work that we do, all of these terms are included. We've embedded them into everything that we do, and we made sure as part of our comprehensive plan and the vision for our city that it would cut across. In our community strategic plan, which are the key things that our council has identified as the things we want to work on in the shorter term, we have an entire pillar written around diversity, equity, and inclusion. So I think if we were concerned that someone might come and check out the website of the city of Redmond and look for those buzzwords, they will find them whether or not we have this position or not. I think, and the other thing that we talked about was at the beginning of last year was originally we were talking about creating a whole office of equity. And so I think this brings us towards the idea of having someone who is leading a department that's going to include equity at its center in addition to all the other parts of READY. And I think for our community, if we are already invested in having this threaded throughout and we have a certain amount of that risk that we're taking on, but we're doing it because that's our values, then being able to go to our community, many of which are concerned. A year ago, we had a town hall in which we got multiple questions from people saying, are you going to back off of doing DEI work at this point? And the cheers from the audience when we said, no, we are actually establishing an Office of Equity, we're actually doubling down on this, told me where our community was at, and this year has shown me where our community is at. So I hope we can continue to advance on our values here.
Thank you. Are there any other comments on this topic before I summarize where I believe we've landed and introduce the next question? Any other comments? So I believe where we have landed is that we have no amendments to offer in new business tonight regarding the pay plan, but we would appreciate, or we do appreciate, the agreement from the mayor and the team to make sure that the working title of the position targets the office with professionals with experience in DEI and can help advance the work of the READY plan. Have I characterized that question correctly? Great. I did hear the mayor offer to check in with us on this and maybe through committee. So I wanted to offer a proposal that maybe we could use the FAC committee to have a monthly update on this, kind of how we do with environmental sustainability, at least until the position has been hired. So if we could just get a monthly check on how's the hiring going for these, where are we at? Is there interest in having a monthly update in our FAC committee packets? Councilmember Kritzer.
I am interested. I think when, a little while back when we changed around the focus of the different committees, we moved DEI into the Public Safety and Human Services Committee. And so, but I think we've ended up, I actually think because most of the executive things come in FAC, it might make sense for us to kind of move those items to go back in there. Also, it gives us a little bit more room in that committee to do that, but just in terms of which committee it falls in.
I think given who we have sitting with us today to discuss this item, I think FAC is going to be the most appropriate. All right. Are there other questions regarding the ordinances in front of us for discussion? We'll look around the room, and then we'll go to Councilmember Kritzer. Okay, Councilmember Kritzer, go ahead.
I just had one question, because we did receive this question actually from the public, and I was curious about it, if you could clarify why we see the change in the Parks Director position, and why we don't see kind of the same levels for positions such as the Planning and Community Development Director, which I see those positions as having both pretty robust scopes.
Great question. So what we did is for the executive classification, so directors and deputy directors, we hired an outside consultant, compensation consultant, who did a compensation survey, and they surveyed cities in that are like our city in Washington and Arizona and California. So they went out and they surveyed these cities. By surveying those cities, they identified the different pay ranges for each of our classifications. And the Parks Director, which is Parks and Recreation Director, did come out of that survey in a higher classification or band than they are currently in right now. And that is based on the scope of what the Parks Director does. So the Parks Director obviously sees parks operations, recreation, and facilities. And so that just fell within the same ranges as what the other cities pay for their parks directors. So what we did is we took that, and then we made that adjustment in the Parks Director to move it up into the appropriate band based upon the market data. We use the market data as a basis for determining where the classifications are going to fall, so that there is no, so it's really clear that there is no just randomly just picking where we're going to place them. We place them very specifically based upon the data that we have. So that's why it's in that range.
Thank you so much, Director Laird. Are there additional questions? Councilmember Nueva Camino.
Just a final comment before we wrap up, just acknowledging the collaboration that has gone into this, as we are just reminding everybody, I know our residents, our community sees how fast we're growing, but just how much we've grown in just the last couple of years, the anticipated growth that we have moving forward, how we're expanding the team, adding two things, making sure that we're competitive as employers. We are one of the largest employers in the city with a ballpark 1,000 employees. Is that correct, Director?
Almost. About 800 employees, yeah.
So just acknowledging the level of collaboration that we've had, both from us as a team, with my colleagues, as well as with the executives and the staff members. So just thank you for the back and forth and collaboration, so that we can get this through and start building out our team a bit more robust. So thank you.
Thank you. I do want to just make sure, because again, we will have this at new business tonight. Are there any additional questions regarding the new position in Pay Plan E of the Assistant COO? Any questions on that? Councilmember Kritzer.
I'll just make a supportive comment, since I made quite a few questions. It's just that I appreciate the mayor coming to share with us her vision for what is really needed to manage the department well, and for the COO as well, to make sure that we have the capacity, as Councilmember Nueva Camino mentioned, as we grow, to make sure that we can have the right management to provide high levels of service to our residents. And if we kind of need this assistant COO position, plus we're going to have this expanded deputy executive department director, or whatever we decide to call it, I think that's really great. I do also look forward to us having the discussion as part of the budget process overall for kind of these bigger discussions around the executive department and what it looks like going forward.
Okay. All right, with that, just a reminder for the council that on new business tonight, we do have this item. We put it on new business so that we could have the time for this conversation. That's going to include the Executive Pay Plan E, the accompanying ordinance, as well as the non-represented, and as well as the general supplement pay plan and the attached ordinance. All right. Any final comments from the staff or anyone? I think we're good then. Okay, thank you so much for your work. I appreciate the remarks on collaboration and all that we were able to accomplish today for this meeting. We are adjourned. Thank you so much.